And welcome to the MLB Network Podcast, presented by the all-star lineup of Chevy trucks. Let's drive north on PCH, like from San Diego to Orange County, to visit with our next guest. I'm your host, Matt Vasgersian, with the next half hour. Really thrilled to have Mark Langston with us. A 16-year career in the big leagues, four-time all-star, led the American League in strikeouts, 3 of his first 4 years in the big leagues. Langer, thanks for the time. I wish we had more than a half hour. Thanks for being with us.
Matty V, always great catching up with you.
There's so much to get into here, and I guess I want to start this way because as a young guy breaking in with the Mariners in the mid-'80s, you were that world-class prize that really didn't have a ton of support. The Mariners were kind of building for the future. And as we contemporize things these days and talk about Paul Skeens or these young generational arms who aren't pitching for the 27 Yankees, and that was your lot in life in the mid-'80s in Seattle, everybody kind of bemoans that fact. Oh, poor Paul Skeens is being wasted. Was that narrative around you as well in the mid-'80s when you began your career?
No, not at all. Just from the standpoint, that group that I came up with in 1984, we all played at the AA level together. So we all progressed together. So we didn't know any better. So we always thought every year we showed up to spring training going, this is our year. We're going to take down the league. And it just, we were young and inexperienced. A lot of mistakes were made. But because we had a really unbelievable team in AA. We dominated in AA. So we just assumed that at some point that was going to click in Seattle. And it didn't quite materialize. It did after a lot of us left. It did click in Seattle, but no, I don't think that was ever the mindset. We always took the field thinking we're going to win. And every time I pitched, I always had the mentality, I don't care what our record was. I was out there to win that night, no matter what. So most of us had that mentality. And you looked at the end of the year, and certainly there was plenty of games in Seattle where there's 2,500 people there. We're 30 games out. We're playing the Cleveland Indians. They're 40 games out, and we're still fighting through that. So I never felt that. You look back on it now. Certainly, yeah, we were young and inexperienced, but I think our mentality was still focused to win.
I think you stumbled on something great there, too, because you guys played together for a long time in the minors, and I've spoken to Harold Reynolds, to Dave Valley, a lot of your former teammates about those. You guys were tight. You guys liked each other. You knew how to play together. You liked to play for and with each other to the degree that you guys even played basketball together. I understand there's a compromising photo of you in some 80s basketball shorts that's floating around out there with Harold and AD and the rest of those guys. Talk about the value of that, of being together as minor league teammates.
Yeah, certainly. I think that's the key from that standpoint of there's that beautiful basketball photo of all of us. Yeah, I'm on the outside. That's the way. Boy, that is mid-'80s. That's the NBA look right there. So, yeah, we all came together, and we came up together. And you know what? Most of us lived in Seattle year-round. We all bought houses in Seattle, and we all spent our time in the off-season together. Heck, Rick Riz, who does the broadcast still for the Seattle Mariners, he was part of our group too. We would go bowling together. We would go to movies together. So it was a very, very close, tight-knit group. And I think that does stem from us playing at the AA level together as a group and just all experiencing our first times at the major league level together as a young group.
You know, one of the many things that distinguished your 16 years in the big leagues is that you threw hard, you were super durable, and just watching video of you and our production staff and getting ready for this podcast, we've been watching a lot of old Langer vintage video. Mechanically, you were beautiful to watch, man, and the leg kick is unbelievable. I mean, have you ever tried to do this now? You're in your 60s now. I'm not telling any secrets. How high can that leg go now?
Not very high at all, man. That's gravity's catching up to me very quickly, and a lot of things that used to go up don't go up anymore. So from the standpoint of, I'll stop with that right there. But the leg kick, for sure. Growing up as a kid, I grew up in the Bay Area, so Juan Marichal, Vida Blue were two big influences on me. I got to see those guys pitch. And I kind of morphed in between. Jim Palmer's another guy that I had a poster of him on the wall, high leg kick. So that was really the guys that I looked up to when I was growing up. And a lot of my college photos, if you looked at some college photos, I try to mimic everything Vida Blue did. And he really used his legs a lot. And I had played soccer through high school, and that I knew the importance of your lower half, how important you had to use your lower half to create some extra leverage out on the mound. So, Vida Blue was really, I had my hands in the same slot. I tried to emulate everything that Vida Blue did. But obviously, there's Juan Marichal had some influence in there, too.
Nobody kicks that high anymore. And is that a function of the game changing, Mark? I mean, if you had that leg kick today with the, two throw over rule to first base, there'd be some running done on your watch, I would imagine.
Oh, definitely. It's so banked against pitchers in today's game where that's part of the deal. You have to have your A move right out of the gate to where you don't get to kind of show a couple of crummy moves and try to set the trap for these guys. You don't have that luxury anymore. You have to really pay attention to the leads. The bases obviously are bigger, so they really want to emphasize the stolen base, so which is a complete disadvantage for a pitcher. It's very difficult for these guys to hold runners and everybody, and it's usually on the pitcher anyway. It's your timing to home plate, and you really got to pay attention to all of those factors. You don't even have the luxury. Guys that like to run, the one thing you could do to control the running game is hold the baseball. That really sets everything in motion. Guys that want to run, they want to go. The longer you hold it, they start getting a little edgy over there. You can't even do that anymore with the clock ticking down. So, so many disadvantages.
We have so much to get to with you. We're going to take a break. When we come back, the hot minute in Montreal, the great years in Anaheim, 98 World Series, so much to get into with Mark Langston as we continue on the MLB Network Podcast. Just like diehard fans of Major League Baseball, Chevy trucks show up no matter what, because the Chevy lineup of trucks has always stepped up to the plate and helped hardworking people get things done. Visit Chevy.com/trucks to find the truck that can take you from the ballpark to the work site and back again. Mark Langston, of course, began his career with the Seattle Mariners, firmly established as one of the elite American League arms until this big deal in May of 1989 when he was traded to the Montreal Expos. What's the first thing that comes into your brain, Mark, when you see that image of you wearing the Expos uni?
Great times. We just talked about some of the issues that we had in Seattle. I get traded over a team that is ready to win at that point. And that's why you put a uniform on, is to try to get to the postseason and do that. And that was one of the funnest summers I've had in my entire career. You talk about a tight-knit group in Seattle. This was another crazy tight group that after ball games, we'd end up in Tim Wallach's room, and half the team, more than half the team, would be in that room, playing Nintendo golf, for cash. So really great time. And then the opportunity to play in the National League. I was an American League guy, so the opportunity to, instead of facing Edgar Martinez, I'm facing a pitcher. That is always a great thing. And to be able to step in the batter's box and maybe swing it a little bit. That was fun. It brought back all those great memories from Little League and high school and a little bit in college. So I loved every second of my time in Montreal.
Gosh, that's great to hear. And I know that, remembering how, we as fans, and I was just starting my career as a broadcaster at that time, what we thought at the time was, wow, they stole him. They get Mark Langston for that. We've never heard of any of these dudes. Of course, one of these dudes ends up being Randy Johnson. Do you have a relationship with Randy? And have you guys ever visited about the trade that will forever link you guys?
Sure. Anytime I see Randy, we always have a nice conversation. And I think the last time I saw him was at a Rush show. We were backstage. We're both big Rush guys. And we were backstage. And I didn't even see Randy, but I saw maybe 100 different cameras laying on the floor in a semicircle. I'm going, what the heck is this? And then the unit comes walking in. These were all of his cameras. And he had the photo pass. He was going to be in the camera well shooting the Rush show. And I remember Geddy Lee telling him, hey, Randy, I got paying customers. You got to get that 6'10" body down low. I got the paying customers behind. You better get that body down. And he was like a ninja out there. He would just shrink right down. It was beautiful to see.
The run in Anaheim, and there are so many places to start here. I guess I want to tackle the combined no-hitter first. It was the first start of the year for you, which I had forgotten before researching this. You go 7, Mike Witt goes 2, combined no-no against, of all teams, the Seattle Mariners. How do you look back at that day in your career?
That day was weird because that was a strike season. So we had only 3 weeks of spring training. The most I had pitched was, my last start was 4 innings. I was supposed to go 5 innings in this start and try to build up your levels. And I ended up into the 7th inning, threw a ton of pitches. These are my closest, dearest friends in the batter's box. And I remember Alvin Davis, who was my roommate on the road in Seattle. He gets in the box and he gives me that little Alvin Davis smile. I am got to pull my hat down. I got to look down, and just to try to keep any kind of focus whatsoever. Harold, all these guys, these are my closest friends. It was probably one of the hardest starts of my career because of that. It's my first start with the Angels facing my dear friends. So a very difficult night. 7 innings, I was pretty much done at that point. Then Witter came in, and Witter, that was the first time Witter had been in the bullpen. He'd been that premier starter for the Angels for such a long time. And he came in, he didn't even know it was a no-hitter. He came in, he goes, and they started booing because I wasn't out there. Witter's going, geez, I was a really good player here. How the heck are you booing me? And we talked to this day that it felt like a glorified spring training game because of, I'm just not ready to go 9 innings at that juncture. So I would have loved to have had a full spring training and take a crack at that. And it was a tight game, by the way, a 1-0 game. So it was a great way to start my Angel career, a wild, weird way to start my Angels career. And Witter and I still to this day get a big laugh at that. It was a weird scenario all the way around.
That's wild that it felt to you like a glorified spring training game, because it's such a memory for those of us as fans that remember that night pretty well. So your years in Anaheim, I mean, one of the things that kind of pops off the page there is what a team full of good-looking dudes, first of all. Forget about the baseball part of it, because I don't think you guys won as much as you thought you would with the kind of talent that was on those rosters. Those were the years where the Angels were really active in the free agent market. But, I mean, dude, Jim Abbott, the most under-celebrated athlete in the history of athletes. Chuck Finley, I mean, you guys must have done some damage back in the day. Let's be honest.
I mean, those are like some of my closest, dearest friends to this day, along with Kirk McCaskill. With that Angels group as pitchers, we did a lot together. We had so much fun. And for me, being left-handed, to have those two guys, if I pitched the last game of a 3-game series and those two guys went before me, my scouting report was laid out right in front of me. I knew exactly how to attack guys. I didn't have Jim Abbott's cutter. I didn't have Finn's split, but I always watched how hitters attack fastballs against those two guys. And obviously with Abby's ability to pound inside, that's kind of what I did. So I could see the guys that really struggled with Abby's cutter in, and it helped me immensely. Not only that, I sat next to Rod Carew every night on the bench, and Rod was our hitting coach. And Rod, he would give me the ultimate scout report. He'd go, watch that guy's front hit. Watch how quick it opens. So by the time I started with that group, your game plan was set in stone. It was so much fun playing with those guys. Nobody worked harder than those guys, by the way, in the weight room. It was fun to be around it. Chuck was the ultimate leader, funniest guy I've ever been around in my entire life. And obviously, Abby, just a fierce competitor. Don't let that little smile fool you. He'll carve your heart out for $1 on the golf course. We're
going to take one last break. When we come back, everybody thinks that they know what the worst call in the history of Major League Baseball is. Well after the Seattle days, Mark and the '98 Padres were victimized by the worst call in the history of umpiring. We'll document it next.
The Farmer's Dog thinks about your dog every day because their goal is to help them live a long, healthy life. Their food is developed by a team of board-certified vet nutritionists. Unlike most pet foods, the Farmer's Dog is made to human-grade standards. It's gently cooked without the ultra-processing and portioned for easy weight management. Because sure, good ingredients matter, but the best recipes call for so much more. Get 50% off your first box of the official pet food of Major League Baseball at thefarmersdog.com/MLB. That's thefarmersdog.com/MLB.
So from Seattle to Montreal to the Angels and that great run you had that long time in Anaheim, to a year pitching out of Bruce Bochy's kind of swingman role in 1998 for an eventual National League Championship team loaded with stars. Was that the best team that you ever played on, the 98 Pods?
Definitely. Although the 99 Cleveland Indians were pretty darn good. There was an all-star at every position with that team. This team was just and another crazy tight team. And I think a lot of that had to do with Trevor Hoffman was right in the middle of all of that. But a really super tight team. We did another team that we did everything together. We went as a group on the road, had our dinners together, spent a lot of time on the road as a unit. And I think that's always important. You see the teams that win. I think that's a huge element for getting those teams in the right track. A really close team.
I know you've got family connections to San Diego. It's that 98 team is still so beloved in San Diego because it was just the second ever World Series team. And I contend this, and maybe I'm nuts here. I think that if that blown call in the bottom of the seventh inning in the 5-5 game, the perfect strike you threw to Tino on a 2-2 pitch, if that's called properly and that's out number 3, that's a strikeout, maybe the Pods win that game. Maybe the Pods win that series. Maybe the Core 4 Yankees thing doesn't get the traction that it had. That was still going to be a great team, don't get me wrong. But one call changed so much franchise history on both sides. First question, Richie Garcia, has he ever fallen on the sword and said, yeah, I boxed that one? Has he ever admitted that that was the worst call in World Series history?
I don't know. If he has, I haven't heard it. I have seen a clip of Richie Garcia and said Carlos Hernandez was our catcher. He kept telling him, quit moving your glove, quit moving your glove. I'm not going to call it if you move your glove. So that one, he didn't have to move his glove. That ball pretty much was a strike. But yeah, that team there in 98, we weren't supposed to beat the Astros in round 1. They traded for Randy Johnson and they had the unit on their team. We won a spectacular game 1 with Kevin Brown and Randy Johnson going toe-to-toe. I think Randy punched out 16. Kevin Brown, I think he punched out 15. So it was an unbelievable performance. I think the King, Jim Leyritz, hit a home run off the unit, and we ended up winning that game. Then we weren't supposed to beat the Braves, obviously, with that 3-headed monster that they had in their pitching staff, and we ended up taking them down. So we had so much momentum going into that series with the Yankees. We're the underdog. We weren't supposed to win either our series. Obviously, the Yankees were just on a roll, obviously by far the best team in the American League. And we went in there and we jumped on David Wells right out of the gate. We were up 5-2. Kevin Brown. And that year, Kevin Brown might be the most dominant guy I had seen on the mound maybe my entire career. Everything, he dominated everybody and every team that he faced. He should have been the Cy Young Award winner that year. Tom Glavine won it because Kevin Brown and Trevor Hoffman split some votes there. Mm-hmm. There's no way that Tom Glavine should have got the Cy Young. It should have been Kevin Brown all the way. So, again, 5-2 with Kevin Brown on the mound. We're maybe 3 outs, 4 outs away from Trevor coming into that game. Kevin Brown was sick that day. That's the only reason he didn't get deeper into that game. He had the flu, so he pushed himself to the max. And then that game got a little bit squirrely. It was 5-5 when I came into the game. And I was the first guy I faced was Paul O'Neill, the lefty. I ended up getting him out. The next guy's Chili Davis. I played a lot with Chili. Chili's one of my closest, dearest friends. I ended up getting 3-2 because Tino was on deck. And I tried to get him to chase, and he would not chase. So I ended up walking the bases loaded. Tino comes up, and then obviously the count gets to 2-2. And this is the pitch right there that I thought was strike 3. I think
Oh, my God, it was strike three. You're being diplomatic, dude. It cut the plate in quarters. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, and I started running off the field. In fact, our whole infield started running off the field, and then it was called ball four. Richie Garcia had a short fuse, by the way, and I was screaming at him, and he put his head down. He didn't say a word. And I always said that 2-2 pitch was on Richie Garcia. The 3-2 pitch, that's on me. I should have taken some more time to regroup after that pitch. I did. The next one's a cookie. He hits a grand slam. But that pitch, to this day, I still get people coming up to me telling me that pitch was a strike. And it is what it is. But, I agree that would that have changed? Who knows? Because, again, the Padre team was such a gritty team. They had so much fight in them. That grand slam just absolutely just dismantled us. The next day didn't go our way. And we had a couple of close games that we lost back in San Diego.
Man, Langer, we really appreciate you joining us on the MLB Network podcast. As I mentioned, the only regret here is that we only had 30 minutes. As soon as we're done, I'm going to try to find the footage of Jimmy Reese hitting fungos to members of Rush, among other things. And we appreciate the time, man. We'll be listening on Angels Radio. Way to go. That'll do it for this episode of the MLB Network podcast.